Indianapolis Motor Speedway might be empty, but it's going to be filled with racing activities, including the NTT IndyCar Series. Formula One returns. They're racing on Austria in the first of two races at the Austrian Ring, and NASCAR will conclude the weekend with the Brickyard 400. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Grid Life Pre-Race. A live look at Indianapolis downtown from the Indy webcam. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Grid Life. Joe Samaniego. For everyone in the United States, happy Independence Day. Today, the top racers are all at Indianapolis from IndyCar and NASCAR, the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, we have a lot of action this weekend. We have ARCA, we have IMSA, IndyCar, Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1, and NASCAR's Brickyard 400. And it's starting to feel like a normal weekend of racing, and it all starts today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The news arrived on Friday evening that where we have to reemphasize the safety protocols on Friday afternoon. Well, early in the early evening. Hendrick Motorsports released a statement that Jimmie Johnson had tested positive for the virus that is causing chaos all over the world. This came after Jimmy's wife, Chandra, started showing allergy-like symptoms and she was tested for the virus, and her results came back positive, and Jimmie Johnson was participating in a Zoom meeting discussing his potential future in IndyCar and softening his stance on running the Indianapolis 500. And when finding out that he had tested positive, Johnson had been in communication with Hendrick Motorsports throughout the day. Hendrick released a statement informing the public and the media about Jimmie Johnson sitting at the Brickyard 400 after he and his wife had tested positive for the virus. And NASCAR released a statement saying that Johnson will have to be cleared by his physician and test negative in two tests at least 24 hours apart. And earlier this morning, Jimmie Johnson participated in a call on Zoom to speak with the media. He said that his daughters tested negative for the virus, which is a good thing. Johnson stated how he and his family took this virus very seriously, but still ended up testing positive. The virus does not discriminate. Anybody can get it. When NASCAR suspended the season in March, Johnson said that he took an antibody test and it came back positive and was told at the time by his physician that it had a 20% chance of being inaccurate. And during this time, the CDC did warn us that the antibody tests were too inaccurate for us to count on. And despite all of the crazy things happening, during his final season as a full-time NASCAR Cup driver, Johnson remains committed to making this his final season, no matter what. He stated that he would like to come back in the future and run select Cup races with Hendrick Motorsports. While the current rules wouldn't allow that to happen, he could still run for another Chevrolet Cup team with a car fielded by Hendrick Motorsports. So we'll just have to see what happens there. And also, his IndyCar test in a few days with Chip Ganassi Racing has been canceled, unfortunately, and we understand why. And Justin Allgaier will drive the 48 car at the Brickyard 400, replacing Jimmie Johnson. No word on the race's fall in Kentucky, and right now Jimmie Johnson is asymptomatic, and it looks like his wife Chandra is going to be okay. And we here at the Grid are thinking of Chandra, Jimmie, and the entire Johnson family at this time, and we're sending our best wishes as Jimmie and Chandra recover from the virus.
We're definitely all thinking of Jimmie, Chandra during this time. I know the news yesterday caught everyone off guard, but appears Hendrick Motorsports and NASCAR seems to have a protocol already in place in case this was to happen. We definitely encourage all our followers, fans, to follow us on the Grid Network for any update regarding Jimmie or any of the races going on this weekend. Kobe, thank you so much for your reporting. I know you have a very busy weekend with almost a lot of racing. I can only imagine when the news broke out yesterday, it almost removed that sense that this was distant from motorsports, the virus. But now it has come into the racing community, but now it's also gotten a major leader in the Cup Series garage. Do you feel like it has already removed that distance, like this isn't going to affect us?
Well, Joe, to be honest with you, I'm surprised we haven't had someone test positive earlier because this just seemed inevitable. It seemed like that the virus, the virus, it's easy is easy, to transmit it from person to person, and it just really surprises me that we've waited this long until a driver has tested positive for the virus. It's just something that it seemed like that it was going to happen eventually, and it would not surprise me if we see more drivers who have to like sit out for 2 weeks or whatever, and then get their two negative tests to come back. And unfortunately, Jimmy Johnson was just the first NASCAR driver to test positive, and it's very unfortunate that this is happening during during his farewell season, as a NASCAR Cup driver, and understand that it's not the season that Jimmy Johnson hoped for, but when Jimmy Johnson is ready to return, hopefully everything will go smooth sailing for him because as a true champion of the sport, you definitely like to see him go off on a positive note. And also yesterday morning, IMSA driver with Action Express Racing with the Wheeling Engineering Cadillac DPI, Felipe Nasr tested positive for the virus as well, and Gabby Chavez is replacing him tonight for the WeatherTech 240 at Daytona International Speedway.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about Felipe Nasser. That news came out earlier on Friday. Definitely we're thinking about him and his family doing everything going on. It has been something where with the virus, it has appeared that NASCAR, Hendrick Motorsports, and I assume all the teams have really taken this seriously, where it was a matter of if, but a matter of when a driver was to contract the virus and have to sit out a race or two. So it's definitely going to be something everybody will be following. Of course, everyone today is following all the activities at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Indianapolis Motor Speedway is hosting the IndyCar race, the NTT IndyCar Series. They're going to be running the GMR Grand Prix today. Essentially, this race was supposed to take place early May. With this situation with the pandemic, it has been postponed and it's going to be run today, same day as the NASCAR Xfinity race, and then tomorrow the Brickyard 400. Unfortunately, fans cannot be at the track this weekend, but this is interesting. It's sort of the first, what a lot of folks are calling crossover doubleheader weekend, one venue, both series. Are you surprised that, considering everything that's going on, this is the first time we're seeing both IndyCar and NASCAR race together at one track?
Well, I'm not gonna say necessarily surprising and all of that, but when the pandemic struck and both series had to redo their schedules, this was a great opportunity for NASCAR and the NASCAR Cup Series and the IndyCar Series to host a special doubleheader weekend, and also the paddocks. Although the paddocks won't be able to mingle and all of that, it's still something great to see. And in the future, I'd definitely be interested in seeing the GMR Grand Prix move to Fourth of July weekend, and just have the entire month of May focus on the Indianapolis 500, the oval track. And I think the IndyCar, being on the oval in May and then coming back in July, I think that would be great, during regular times when we can have NASCAR Cup Series and IndyCar Series interact, and it would definitely be great to see some crossovers. I understand that there might have been one or two IndyCar drivers that were looking at running the Xfinity race before the global pandemic struck, and it's unfortunate that we're not going to be able to see a crossover this time around. But with Roger Penske in command of the IndyCar Series, his obvious presence and success in NASCAR, it would not be surprising to see this happen again, and maybe some more NASCAR Cup and IndyCar doubleheaders.
Speaking of Roger Penske, I know you mentioned, of course, Roger Penske owns Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the IndyCar Series, and of course, he has a team in the Cup Series. He, along with Chip Ganassi, they both have a unique opportunity. They could have the drivers sweep the weekend. They both have an IndyCar team. They both have a NASCAR team. Out of those two, which one do you feel is more likely to sweep the weekend?
Definitely Team Penske right there. I think Team Penske on both sides, in IndyCar and NASCAR. I feel like that they have a better chance to win in there, and that they'll be more prepared. But the Ganassi team is strong as well.
Yeah, the Ganassi team looks really strong. It's just surprising that they haven't won at the Indy Grand Prix yet. Of course, Penske has won every race at the Indy Grand Prix. Simon Pageant and Will Power both tied with 3 wins each. So for somebody to win, they have to beat one of those two, and Will Power is on the pole. What do you think it's going to take to try to beat Team Penske today?
Well, you're just gonna have to be more Penske perfect than Team Penske, and make sure that you're hitting all your marks, not making any mistakes. Team Penske, they always bring the best cars to the track, and it seems like they might have some competition today. Arrow McLaren SP driver Oliver Askew was very impressive in qualifying, and also Myers Shank Racing's Jack Harvey as well. Jack Harvey ran really well last year at the Indy Road Course, and it looks like Jack Harvey might be a contender today.
He might definitely be a contender today because he is starting up front. Taking a look at the top 10 stars for today, Will Power, Jack Harvey, the front row, Colton Herta, Graham Rahal, they make up row two. Oliver Askew, who you just mentioned, Joseph Newgarden, the defending champion. There's Scott Dixon, the prior past race winner at Texas Motor Speedway. Connor Daly, impressive run at eighth. Then we have Felix Rosenquist and Max Chilton rounding out the top 10. Now, for all our viewers there that are watching, we encourage you to share in the comments who do you think is going to win the race, what are you looking for, and if you have any questions, we'll try to best to answer it. Today's race is a 2.4-mile road course race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so it's not the oval configuration, and in fact, it's similar to the what Formula One and MotoGP used to run. We also are going to see the Xfinity Series run this road course track. This is the first time, and thankfully they did get some practice yesterday just to get used to the track. What do you think is going to happen with that race? Do you think it'll be something similar to what we've seen the last few IndyCar races there, where it has been caution-free, low cautions, or do you think since this is Xfinity brand new track road course, are we going to be seeing a lot of cautions?
Oh yeah, definitely was surprised we'll see a lot of caution. I think that this actually might be the best race of the entire weekend. I actually sat in here and watched both practice sessions yesterday. Just observing and seeing what the track was like in the stock cars, and it seemed like the stock cars, really take a good liking to this track. And there are definitely some opportunities for passing at several of the breaking points. And also saw a lot of saw the awesome clip of Jeremy Clements wheel hopping, on his car on two wheels or whatever. It was really cool to see. And also some drivers were locking up and missing braking points. And if we're coming to the on the white flag, coming towards the checker flag, the last portion of the track is going to be interesting. The final chicane, you could really give somebody a bump and run there and run them off the course, and it could definitely create some drama that the fans will love to see watching from home.
It's going to be something else to see all the action going on. One of the things, of course, this road course is going to make it where it's really challenging for all the drivers. One big challenge for everyone here currently is trying to catch up to Kobe and pick a winner. Looking at our leaderboard, Kobe has 5 wins. Everybody else that has gotten one win is tied at one apiece. So now it's time for pick a winner for the Indianapolis GMR Grand Prix. With that said, I'll go first since I'm the one behind right now. For the Grand Prix today, I'm thinking I'm going to go with a Penske driver, but not Will Power. I'm thinking Simon Pagenaud is going to come through and take the win.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the opposite of you, and I'm picking Will Power to win today at Indianapolis.
It's going to be really interesting to see how everything turns out at Indianapolis today. Of course, the GMR Grand Prix at Indianapolis will be on NBC, so definitely we encourage everyone to get a chance and check that race out. And then, of course, this is the first time after the race, the grid ranking will have the IndyCar Series score since they completed 2 races. So definitely, following the conclusion of Sunday's NASCAR race, be sure to look for the grid ranking and the update standings since the IndyCar Series will be included.
Yeah, NASCAR will end the race weekend with the Brickyard 400, but on Sunday morning, Formula One will kick off their long-awaited season in Austria, and there's a lot of excitement entering the Formula One season, and so much has changed since what was supposed to be the opening round in Melbourne, and the biggest is the driver situation at Ferrari with Sebastian Vettel on his way out, Carlos Sainz who's joining the team next year. And right now, Charles Leclerc wants to prove that he's the number one driver. Do you think that this will cause issues for Ferrari later this season? With with it being Vettel's final year and Charles Leclerc clearly who has solidified his spot with the team for the foreseeable future.
It's definitely going to be a issue, I think. If you look at some of this stuff, Vettel's, he is trying to prove he could still win races. Some people have said he could be potentially in a Mercedes seat next year. Maybe, we don't know. It's going to be something where he really wants to go out on a high note to try to get people to offer him good rides, get himself in a good position. He isn't going to go out quietly, and I think it's going to be a real challenge for Ferrari. We saw what happened last year in Brazil when the two of them got together. The two of them are going to race each other really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And in qualifying, well, actually earlier this morning, it seemed like Ferrari was really struggling. Sebastian Vettel didn't make it into Q3, and Charles Leclerc had a disappointing qualifying session. And it looks like Ferrari, although we haven't had the first race of the season, it looks like Ferrari might be playing the catch up game, and the driver situation, with Vettel and Leclerc is definitely been a situation that's been a little tense between the two, and it'll be interesting to see how they fair in Vettel's final season with the team. And we saw Lewis Hamilton dominate both practice sessions. And one surprise that everyone is talking about is Sergio Perez for Racing Point. Do you think he could be a dark horse? And do you see him running with the likes of Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari? Or do you think that Racing Point will just have to settle for the rest of the best in the midfield and accept the fourth place in the constructor standings?
I think they're definitely going to be something where they're going to be best the rest. Easily, they seem to have, what a lot of folks are calling sort of the clone Mercedes. They look really fast, but the big thing I see Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, they're the big three for a reason. McLaren got that fourth place last year. They had a really strong year, but especially the way Sergio Perez was looking, I think they're going to be the best of the rest Racing Point this year.
Yeah, Mercedes looked strong this morning in qualifying, and as I mentioned, the big surprise was Sebastian Vettel was not making it to Q3. And for fans new to Formula One, qualifying is broken down into three elimination rounds, with the top 10 advancing into Q3 for pole position. And the front row is a Mercedes 1-2, but it's Valtteri Bottas taking the pole, and he set a new track record. And here's the top 10 starters. Yeah, Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes lock out the front row in the grid. Then we have Max Verstappen and Lando Norris in an impressive fourth for McLaren. Starting fifth is Alex Albon, and then Sergio Perez for Racing Point starting sixth. Charles Leclerc seventh. Carlos Sainz eighth for McLaren, and Lance Stroll ninth with Racing Point. And rounding out the top 10 is Daniel Ricciardo for Renault. And after qualifying today, Joe, what are your thoughts on Ferrari, Racing Point, and McLaren?
Definitely, I think the seeing what we saw at qualifying, how Ferrari Vettel's did not make it into Q1. We saw Racing Point, both their cars got into Q3, same with McLaren. Depending on what happens, it might be really interesting. I said earlier, Racing Point might be the best of the rest. That doesn't mean McLaren is just gonna let them take over the best of the rest title and run away with it. McLaren's still gonna be fighting. They have a good Carlos Sainz that wants to prove a point. We saw Lando Norris an impressive fourth place in qualifying. He's gonna look good, and if they could try to capitalize on potential weakness from Ferrari, it's gonna be a real battle. And this could be something where maybe we might see those three battling each other a bit more.
Yeah. In comparison to last season, I definitely think that we'll see more exciting battles in Formula One. In my opinion, last season I thought that was one of the more entertaining Formula One seasons in recent memory, or at least in my time of following the sport of Formula One. And definitely we'll have to keep an eye on Ferrari, Racing Point, and McLaren moving forward. And Max Verstappen has won the last two races here in Austria. And when Formula One announced the first two races were going to be here, a lot of people assumed that Max Verstappen and Red Bull would be a clear favorite to win or even sweep Austria. After his spin and running behind both Mercedes in practice, do you think that Max Verstappen is still going to be in position to be a favorite to win the race?
Yes, I do see him still being in position to win the race. We saw him get third in time trials. The Mercedes do look tough, but we know Max is a person that is very talented behind the wheel. He could really try to push that Red Bull to compete against the two of them, especially once we do have the racing going. We have DRS. There's the competition. We might see something where the two Mercedes are so battling each other. Max Verstappen can capitalize. So it's going to be really interesting. I do think he's still potentially got a chance to win today.
Yeah, and speaking about winning, it is time for pick a winner. F1, Joe. Since you went first last time, I'll go first now, and I'm gonna go with Hammer Time. Lewis Hamilton is going to win the Austrian Grand Prix.
I'm going to go with Max Verstappen. I know I say I think he still has a shot. I'm just one of the big things I'm going to see is Mercedes. The two of them, if they pull off a good race, I think they'll get it. But I do think Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton are going to be battling really hard, and I think Max Verstappen, just like last year and the year before, is going to pull off a win at Austria.
Yeah, and you can catch tomorrow's F1 race at 9:05 a.m. Eastern Time and 6:05 Pacific on the ESPN network. Here's a friendly reminder that F1 will not be scored in the grid ranking or the World Motorsport League yet.
Yeah, for the World Motorsport League, they have to complete 5 races. Of course, this is only the first race for F1, and then IndyCar is the same as well. But definitely in the grid ranking, it's only 2 events. So you will see the Indy cars being scored. Taking a look at the WML stands right now, Scott McLaughlin and Jamie Whincup took the top 2 spots. The rest of the NASCAR drivers are all there, where we see Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, both of them capitalizing on wins in Pocono. Harrison Burton dropped down. Chaz Mostert, 6th place for the supercars. So then we have Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Noah Gragson, and AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger being in 10th place, that's something where it's really he could be a favorite to win today at the Indianapolis road course race for the Xfinity Series. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all turns out. And then for the grid ranking itself, which is going on as well too, Scott McLaughlin, Denny Hamlin, 2nd place. He is the highest scored NASCAR driver in the grid ranking since Kyle Busch in early 2019. Jamie Wincombe, Sebastian Ogier, and Kevin Harvick round out your top 5. So it's going to be really interesting to see how everything goes. Sunday, following the conclusion of the NASCAR race, the grid ranking will be updated and posted on our Twitter and Facebook page. We encourage everyone to definitely follow us because it's going to be a really fun year, especially as we get all the racing series up and running again. Now, Sunday, the big machine hand sanitizer 400. Everyone is going to be following Joey Logano as he will lead the pack to the green flag, and all 3 Penske cars are starting the top 12. If Roger Penske was to sweep the IndyCar, the Xfinity race today, and then tomorrow the 400-mile race, is IMS really become more Penske's home track?
I mean, even before he legally owned the track in the IndyCar Series in general, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was basically Roger Penske's house. Considering all of the success that he's had at the Brickyard, and now that Roger Penske owns the entire thing, it is definitely his home track. Because when you think Team Penske, you think Penske perfect, and that organization has accomplished just about more. Their organization has accomplished so much more than I believe hardly any other team in the world. So Team Penske is definitely one of the legendary teams of motorsports.
He is definitely a legendary team. It, I mean, Penske perfect, as you said. It's going to be really interesting to see if he could do that kind of sweep. I think it's going to be a really possible shot. Austin Cindric in the Xfinity Series looks pretty good as well. But definitely the Brickyard 400, also known as the Big Machine Hand Sanitizer 400, that's going to be the race everyone's, especially for the NASCAR Cup Series, as we're getting closer to the playoffs, will be looking. Now, one person, as we talk about the playoffs, that has to be a favorite is Denny Hamlin. He won at Pocono. He's leading all the drivers this year in the number of wins. Second in grid ranking, as we had mentioned just earlier. And is Denny essentially the man to beat in NASCAR Cup Series for 2020?
Well, it certainly looks that way. It seems like Denny Hamlin definitely has the momentum right now, and he's looking like an early championship favorite. A lot of people thought he might have had a chance to win last year's championship, but we all know what happened with the tape at Homestead. You know that ruined his chances, and it seems like that Denny Hamlin's not getting any younger, and we don't know how much longer he's going to remain a top tier competitor in the NASCAR Cup Series, or we don't know when he's going to fall off and all of that. So it seems like that this might be Denny's best chance to win the championship, and so far. Hamlin in the number 11 team is definitely clicking on all cylinders.
All cylinders. They're running really strong. They're going to be, I think, definitely a contender today in the race. Taking a look at the top 10 stars for the Big Machine 400 race, we see Joey Logano, Kurt Busch. They are in the front row. We have Alex Bowman and Justin Allgaier is listed as fourth, but remember, he is going to the back since he is subbing for Jimmy Johnson. Aric Almirola and Denny Hamlin, who we just finished talking about. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, a couple of Gibbs Toyotas. Of course, we remember a few years ago when the two of them got together battling for the win. Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott. Now, with the mention of Justin Allgaier going to the back, that will move Kevin Harvick up. So that's going to be really interesting to see what happened in today's race, as essentially it's going to be really big to see with the race and what's going to happen in Indianapolis, because we're getting really close to it. And one of the things, like we saw last week at Pocono, strategy could be a big factor here at Indianapolis. Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a big super speedway where teams can make pit stops and not lose a lap. They've done this before the stage breaks as well to try to capitalize during the stage caution to stay out and gain the track position. We're getting down to it when it comes to the playoffs and trying to position for the win. Which teams do you think will forego stage points and try to aim for track position entering the second and that third stage?
Definitely. I think the teams that can avoid the stage points are those on the outside looking in, because I mean stage points are still crucial at this point, but right now if you're, let's say, outside the top 20 and whatever, that's really not going to matter at this point, and you need to get really, depending on where the cautions fall and what's happening in the race, those teams need to make sure that they put themselves in position to win, and like try anything they can possible, like if we have a caution with 5 laps to go and everybody come to pit, like stay out late, and hope that you can hold them off for like 2 laps or whatever. I mean, when you get a win and you're in the playoffs with the current system, and if you don't have the speed on that day or whatever is going on, you definitely need to be willing to take risks to secure a spot in the playoffs.
And you bring up a really good point about the cautions. We have seen in the past too, where if we see a caution likely to come out, a car is flat tire and there's debris coming from that flat tire. Sometimes if a team is in the right position coming out turn four, they'll try to make that pit stop, get in there before pit road closes, so that way when everyone stops, they stay out. So that's another key factor to be watching for today. Now, with the caution, since 2015, we've had at least 8 cautions in every race. 14 in 2017, the most out of any of the last 5 years. The last race to see less than 5 cautions was in 2014, and that was prior to the introduction of stage cautions. So that means we're essentially with today's stage cautions, 2 cautions, there won't be a competition caution. So we're looking at already 2. What kind of race do you think we could expect, especially with some of the trends going on? Are we going to see a lot of cautions, or are we going to see something, maybe some longer green flag runs at the Brickyard?
To be honest, Joe, I think it could go either way. I'm not gonna really commit to one direction or the other, but I think there's 50-50. We could see a lot of green flag racing, or we could see a lot of caution. The Brickyard is an unpredictable place, and you mentioned the year 2000, I believe it's 2017. We had 14 cautions. I remember that race. That was a really crazy race, and we've seen other Brickyard 400s. Where for the most part, that's been really tame, and that was a really wild race. So we could really see anything on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday is going to be really interesting to see how everything plays out. One team, well, one brand manufacturer that's going to be really interesting to see how everything turns out is Chevrolet. They were nowhere in the first race in Pocono. Then the second race in Pocono, they seemed to really got going. Kurt Busch leading every lap in stage one. This is the 27th race at Indianapolis for the NASCAR Cup Series. 17 of them have been won by Chevrolet. Do you think the bow tie teams will be looking at win number 18 today?
Well, no, actually not going to pick a Chevrolet driver to win, and we have pick a winner coming up, and I'm going to pick a Toyota driver. So soon you'll find out who that is.
Definitely. It's going to be something where it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be really hard for a Chevrolet team to win. I do think it's going to be likely a Toyota, maybe a Ford. The Chevrolets, it just doesn't seem like they're really clicking. Pocono was an indicator. It's very similar, low banking. I just don't see where Chevrolet could really get that win today. Speaking of wins, as you mentioned, and for all our viewers, please comment. We want to see in the chat who do you think is going to win. I know you went first for the F1. I went first for the IndyCar. I'll go ahead and go first today. For pick a winner, I'm going to go with essentially making it a Penske sweep. Brad Keselowski in his Ford. He was really close in 2017, finishing second to Casey Kane. And I think he's going to get it today.
And I'm gonna pick Kyle Busch to win his first Cup race of the season. I'm surprised that we made it to the Fourth of July weekend, and Kyle Busch still hasn't won a Cup race this year. But I think that that is going to change. It's in the Brickyard 400 on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday is going to be a really fun day for all the fans, of course. Today we have over at Indianapolis the IndyCar Series with the road course racing. We got the Xfinity Series, and then tomorrow, Formula One at Austria, and then as well, we got the 400-mile Big Machine Hand Sanitizer 400 at Indianapolis. So it'll be really interesting to see, and we encourage everyone to please subscribe to us on YouTube so that way you can see all our programs and you don't miss any of our new programmings coming up.
Yeah, yeah, and be sure to follow us online. You can go to the gridranking.com to find all of our social media accounts. Follow us, please. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, as Joe just mentioned. Don't miss any of our programs, including our new Rookie Stripes. And Rookie Stripes is going to be the new monthly series that is perfect for any new racing fans wanting to learn and expand their knowledge of auto racing. We encourage you to watch and submit any questions that you may have, and we may use it in our next video. And Joe, I understand that there's something that you wanted to bring up before we head off.
Yes, I know we're hearing word that New York Governor Cuomo has essentially made an announcement saying that they're not going to allow NASCAR to hold their event at Watkins Glen. Do you have more information about that as well?
Oh yeah, Adam Stern is reporting that, as you just mentioned, Governor there's concern that Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York is not going to allow the Watkins Glen race to happen, due to some obvious circumstances. And Stern is also reporting that NASCAR, if in the event that Watkins Glen has to be canceled, that they're looking at running a Roval race as a replacement to Watkins Glen in case the worst case scenario happens. And now looking at all of the Rovals in the southeast, it wouldn't really make sense, to run two Rovals at Charlotte. So I'm thinking, are they going to run a Roval at Homestead Miami Speedway, or even the Daytona International Speedway road course that's used during the Rolex 24 at Daytona? And this is definitely a developing situation that we will continue to monitor at the grid.
Definitely, we encourage everyone to follow us. We'll be monitoring it. Thank you for that report again. And folks, be sure to follow Kobe at the podium finish. I know you're covering a lot of races. How many events are you covering this weekend?
At least three, Joe. I'm yeah doing the IndyCar Grand Prix coming up on the Indy Road Course, and the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and then it looks like I'm going to have enough time to prepare for IMSA coverage tonight as well. And I may get to do the ARCA West race tonight at Irwindale Speedway, but it just depends on the schedule. I understand the IMSA race ends right before the ARCA West race at Irwindale. So I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do that yet. But if time allows, I'll definitely be 4 races today. So I'm going to be very busy.
Very busy. You do quality work, and we enjoy having you a part of the team here right here. For everyone out there, enjoy the races today. We'll see you all next time.